This is the Leon Charney Report. And now, here is your host, Leon Charney.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report, and what better things to talk about on Passover and Easter than money and Israel, the Holy Land. And we have two guests that will take care of the money part. She'll be on later. It's a new reporter we have from Forbes Magazine. And now we have, by popular, everybody wanted him back. His name is Jonathan Paris. He's a fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations, an expert on the Middle East and Indonesia. We'll let Indonesia go for tonight. We'll talk about the Middle East because a lot is going on over there. And I'm not sure the papers have had it or your local TV station, because the CitiBank deal with John Reed and Mr. Weil, Sandy Weil, have really captivated the world and imagination. Jonathan, welcome to the show again.
Thank you, Leon. I'm delighted and surprised that you had me back.
Why? Your mother wrote me 4 letters.
I heard about this show. I didn't see it, but I heard about it because my mother called me and said she was driving out of some shopping mall in Beechwood, Ohio, and somebody flagged her down and said, "I saw your son on the Leon Charney show."
And she was carrying a Forbes magazine as she got to you. Jonathan, well, we have a huge audience. We're very thankful. By the way, we wish all of you who are Jewish a happy Passover. For the non-Jews, a great Easter. For the atheists, just a good day. You know, we have all types who watch the show.
The Muslims had a holiday this week, too.
Really? We wish the Muslims the best also. Israel wants to pull out of Lebanon. Syria is an obstacle. Mm-hmm. This is a unilateral withdrawal according to UN Resolution 435, I believe. Mm-hmm. What's the true story there, Jonathan?
Well, it's been a long story. It started with Yossi Beilin, who's in the opposition, but he started leading a group that says, let's unilaterally withdraw without any permission or whatever. Just do it. We're strong enough to defend our own borders. After all, Israel until 1978 defended its own borders without being in southern Lebanon. The generals seem to be going along with it. There's just been too many deaths, and there's no way to prevent them. It's too much for soldiers to die.
So Vietnam over there, isn't it?
Vietnam. There's no strategic objective. They're purely defensive. So I think they decided to do it, and they told Kofi Annan when he was in Israel that they wanted to do it, and he supported it. It will involve the UN. Curiously, they also went to France. France has this special relationship with Lebanon, goes back for years, and they are working behind the scenes as well to come up with some formula to ensure the security of Israel's northern borders.
But Syria, I mean, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes talk with Syria now. Syria, in a sense, doesn't want to give up its terrorism policy. See, they have the Hezbollah there, and they fund the Hezbollah. So every time they want to do a terrorist attack against Israel, they have these soldiers ready to go for them who basically are suicidal. Israel also has a problem. We had the ambassador on, CISO, who's Consul General for Israel in New York. There's a problem with General Lachad. General Lachad is head of the Southern Lebanese Army.
Right.
You can't leave these people. You can't abandon these people. You lose your credibility. Right. And he's got about 2,000 or 3,000 soldiers, maybe more. So how do you handle that? Now on the Israeli side, Yitzhak Mordechai, who's the defense minister.
Wait a minute, you're answering your own questions, Leon.
No, I'm giving you. This is the beginning. This is the opening.
Okay.
Go ahead. It's not the Charlie Rose Show. This is the Leon Charney Report. And no, I didn't answer it yet. I'm giving you a little background, and then I want your insight. On the other issue is the Israeli government is still split on, although the cabinet voted for it. There was a plan by our friend Arik Sharon and a plan by Yitzhak Mordechai. Mm-hmm. And the plan that was accepted was Yitzhak Mordechai.
On the deployment?
Right.
Yeah.
And
let's get into that, too.
So what does that tell you? You know Arik Sharon, or you know a lot about him, right?
Yeah. Well,
why the grimace?
My view is that we're talking 9%, 11%, 10%. The Americans want 13%. That's not the real issue. The real issue is that in May of next year, May of '99, which is
Oslo Agreement expires. That's
Mr. Arafat is going to declare
an independent state.
He's going to do a Ben Gurion. Remember, I wasn't around, but maybe you remember May of
May 15th,
47?
1948.
48, when they declared the state, was 48?
The partition was in November of 1947.
So that's when he declared independence, right?
He declared a state on May 15th,
1948. That May 14th, 1998, here you are in Ramallah, you're Yasser Arafat, and they're offering you 10% or 7%. He's going to declare a state. Then what?
You're absolutely right.
So here's what I think.
Go ahead.
I think we ought to start working now on what the state's going to be like later on. In other words, if Israel has security concerns of what kind of state the Palestinians should have, let's get them negotiated now rather than have the Palestinians unilaterally declare their own state.
Yeah, but 1 minute, John. Let's back up a little bit. Okay. Arafat, 5 years ago, didn't have an army, didn't have a cabinet, didn't have a legislature, everything that he has now. I'm not sure the people who did it, Oslo, anticipated that this would be the situation. And I'm not sure the people...
What situation? That he has more soldiers than he was supposed to have by 10,000?
No, but that's not the point. He really can declare a state. And I was sitting with Senator Moynihan at a dinner the other day, and I said to him, he said to me, Leon, what's going on in the Middle East? We know each other a long time. I said, Senator, May 4th, 1999 is a big date in the world. He says, why is that? And I said, well, that's the date that Oslo agreements terminate. Mm-hmm. And I can assure you the day after that Arafat's going to declare a state. Mm-hmm. And not many people are talking about it. You and I are, but not many people are talking about it. Now, you're assuming that Israel will accept it. How do you know Israel won't go to war?
I'm not assuming they will accept it. But what I'm suggesting is forget Israel for the moment. Let's talk about the U.S. of A.
Go ahead.
Should the U.S. of A keep on this hunkering down approach of keep Dennis Ross out there and pursuing the step-by-step approach, which clearly is no longer working? It did work for a while, but it's no longer working. Or should the U.S. say, okay, we've got this deadline, let's talk about perhaps a U.S. initiative, I call it a Clinton proposal, that would say Palestinian statehood in return for U.S. announcing to the world that an undivided Jerusalem is Israeli. That is, give Israel something that they need that they don't have on their own. International recognition that Jerusalem is their city.
It's nice to talk about this in a Council of Foreign Relations, but we got to talk about two things. Al Gore wants to be president of the United States. It's a political decision that Clinton would have to make. Once Al Gore does that, I guarantee you that many Jewish groups in this country will come steamrolling out against him.
Remember two things. Remember that George Shultz did the recognition of the PLO right before Bush, was it before Bush took off? It was right at the end of somebody's term.
George Shultz worked for Ronald Reagan.
Right, and it was right at the end of that term that he stepped up and made some gesture to the PLO that would have been more difficult for his successor. I think Al Gore would love for Clinton to declare this proposal, this initiative of an eventual Palestinian state subject to A, B, C, D.
But
rather than let Al Gore do it. Plus, one other thing, Leon. The Democratic Jewish supporters of Al Gore, the big hitters that you know, are not the Orthodox right wing. They tend to be secular, liberal, and for the peace process. So I don't think they would object terribly much to the eventuality of a Palestinian state.
It's a question. I'm not sure, but it's an issue. And the second issue is, can Bibi Netanyahu in his government today accept any formula which allows for a Palestinian state? Don't give me the answer. We're going to take a break, and we'll come right back and ask Jonathan Paris what he thinks. And I know what he thinks about Bibi. He gave him about a 3 last time. Let's see.
But I changed.
Really? You went to 4? 7?
No, 3.2.
We'll be back. Don't leave us. We're back. We're back with Jonathan Paris, who's a senior fellow, a Council of Foreign Relations expert on Indonesia. We're not going to trouble him with that tonight. We've got enough headaches in the Middle East. And we're talking about the possible political ramifications if Yasser Arafat declared unilaterally a state in May of 1999 when the Oslo agreements have expired. And I say that he'll have an army then, he has an infrastructure, legislature, and I believe a lot of world opinion will be with him. The question is, what will Bibi Netanyahu do with the strong right wing that he has in his government? And that's what I ask you, Jonathan.
First of all, thanks for the promotion, but you don't become a senior fellow till you're over 50.
Is that right?
And I'm not 50 yet. So.
You're a junior fellow?
I'm just a fellow, just a happy fellow. Happy to be on your show.
Jonathan, what I've done for your life is incredible. You came here as a stodgy-looking fellow who was in the books all the time.
I told you what my hairdresser said. He saw me. He said my hair was standing up the last time I was on the show.
That usually happens when people meet me.
I asked your assistant, I said, is there a comb here so I could comb my hair? He said, no. We looked all over and we couldn't find a comb.
We're going to upgrade the place soon.
Listen, here's the answer to your story, to your question. Bibi never will do anything unless he's absolutely pressured. The U.S., and same with Arafat, the U.S. with this proposal, and they have to follow through on it. They can't just announce it the way Reagan did with his 5-point plan and then just say, oh, wow, what a beautiful plan, and walk away. If the U.S. shows it's serious, then Bibi will realize that they are serious. Bibi can run to Congress, but Congress does not conduct diplomacy. It's the administration. And I think Bibi will then try to work within the program, try to negotiate within the structure, but a new baseline will be established, and that is that the U.S. supports a Palestinian state.
So you think John Kennedy would have to revise his book and write a chapter on profiles of courage for Bibi Netanyahu?
Maybe not for Bibi, but maybe for Bill Clinton. So this is really the question. Is Bill Clinton up to being an international president, or is he going to stick to Social Security and education and be the domestic president?
Happens, John, it's a serious question. What happens if Israel does not accept the Palestinian state?
Well, Israel could. It's too hypothetical. It's too hard for me to think along those lines. Are you asking that Israel? Are you suggesting Israel might reoccupy the areas that are now 90% populated by Palestinians, like Nablus and Ramallah and Gaza?
Yes.
No Israeli prime minister would do that. No troops would follow unless there was a real insurrection.
We're going to hold this tape. I hope you're wrong.
Unless there's an insurrection.
I hope you're right.
If you shoot at Israeli troops, then anything can happen. But if the Palestinians don't make war, and by the way, they haven't really made terrorist war in the last 4 or 5 months. Have you seen any terrorist incidents? This Hamas incident, they're threatening terrorism, but the PA went out of their way to do a very quick and efficient investigation.
Yeah, well let me explain that to the audience. There was a Hamas leader who died the other day through an explosive. And they blame the Israelis, the Mossad, for it, but it's not
true.
The
Hamas did, yes.
Hamas and the PNA, the Palestinian Authority, did their own investigation. They found out it was done either by a Hamas guy or by himself, and we don't know. But certainly the Israelis were not involved. In fact, the Ami Ayalon, I think the head of the Shin Bet, went to visit
to show
Arafat that this thing did not occur. It's very important, but. Despite that, the Hamas have come out with very, very tough statements.
I'm worried about a bombing incident at this point. Whenever we get close to something, there's always a bombing incident. July 25th, there was David Levy was making some deals with the Egyptians and Arafat's deputy Abu Mazen, and then there was that bombing in Jerusalem. So there's always that factor. But, I don't know what Israel will do. I think that there's eventually, even Bibi said that he was talking a year ago about an eventual Palestinian state. Sharon, your buddy, talks about a Palestinian state.
My buddy? I haven't talked to Sharon at length since, when was that? Since he lost the libel case.
But that was a long time ago.
Right.
But the point was that Sharon wants a state that's a very tiny Bantustan, whereas what I think the U.S. will be talking about, if they go ahead with this proposal, is a state where the majority of the West Bank is Palestinian
and it will have contiguity, that is, it will be connected. Nablus will be connected. And also, let's talk about Jerusalem. I'm surprised you didn't pick up on this concession to Israel. I mean,
I'm sitting here all night listening to your wisdom.
Well, what I'm talking about is not just Israel declaring Jerusalem its undivided capital, but the whole world declaring Jerusalem its undivided capital, and then carving out a little neighborhood in municipal, that is Greater Jerusalem, not in the Old City, but a little neighborhood where there no Jews go, and make that Al-Quds, make that the capital of Palestine. What do you think?
I don't want to upset you, Jonathan, but this idea was on this show with a fellow called Ruby Rivlin, who's a member of Knesset, Likud member of Knesset, who pointed out on our show exactly where the capital would be. So we
of Al-Quds?
Yeah, exactly. But your mother wasn't watching the show 6 months ago. We can't expect that from you.
Well, I'm not sure exactly where, but it could
there
be.
Is a place
you could find a neighborhood.
Yeah, but you think Arafat would accept that? Doesn't he have a right wing on his side?
He gets this. Yes. Not only that, but he has the whole Muslim world. I mean, Jerusalem is their third holiest city, so it's not just a Palestinian concession. But originally we thought it would be too much, but now I'm convinced, with Congress and the U.S. body politic the way it is, and Israel the way it is, you have to offer Israel something they can't get. Security is not enough. They can get their own security. They think they have U.S. security whether or not they agree to a Palestinian state. So in order to get Israel to sign on, I think they would sign on with U.S. pressure. But let's not call it pressure. It wouldn't be a diktat. The U.S. would sort of say, this is our best guideline. We'll throw it at you, and you guys negotiate the details.
All right, is this what you found out when you met with all the scholars in Washington? You told me you met with 12 scholars on the Middle East.
12, right, a million plus two.
All right, tell me who they were.
Well, there was
scholars.
Brent Scowcroft. There were the Bushies. There were the Bushies.
Former National
Richard
Security
Haas,
advisor,
who's now head of Brookings.
Right.
Jessica Matthews, head of Carnegie. Jeffrey Kemp, the National Security Advisor under Reagan. Englishman, right. Dov Zakheim, he's the one who told the Israelis to give up the lobby.
Right.
Very bright
Orthodox
guy.
Jew.
Zakheim is the one, right,
He's an
who
Orthodox
came
Jew.
up with the Jerusalem for Palestinian statehood.
Okay.
And he's an Orthodox Jew. So he thinks that this is the one thing that Israel wants.
So you're saying to get the whole world to accept that Jerusalem is the undivided capital of Israel, and that the Arabs will have a small little capital somewhere near Jerusalem, and that for that the Israelis have to accept the Palestinian state. I mean, they have to.
That there will be a Palestinian state. Not that the Israelis have to, that the U.S. will declare in the statement that the U.S. believes that there. Once the U.S. says it, it becomes the benchmark.
All right, what's Madeleine Albright doing now? Is she?
She and Dennis. I heard she and Dennis and Clinton huddled. There was a very nasty article against Dennis saying he should just hang up his cleats and go back to UCLA. No, I did not.
No?
You know, I'm very partial to Dennis and his associate, Aaron Miller.
Charles Kupchan said that.
Charlie, well,
your colleague at the Council of
he's a younger man.
Very bright guy.
Yeah, bright. But I never said that. But on the other hand,
he says he has an investment there, and he's trying to protect his investment. He's put a lot of time in, Dennis, you know.
Dennis really does know. But apparently the article alleged that Albright is not so overwhelmed with Dennis the way Baker and Christopher were.
Right.
Christopher liked Dennis's negotiating skills. Christopher's a lawyer. Albright says, hey, enough is enough. I'm getting impatient. Let's come up with... I think she would be behind the Clinton proposal. But the question is whether our president and our vice president can get behind it.
All right, so we're going to cut for a break, and you're going to give us the pro and con of why they would and why they wouldn't. And Clinton is a courageous man who knows how to intern and extern, right?
Right.
We'll be right back. We're back with Jonathan Paris. We have a lot of fun with him personally, but the subject matter is very, very important, and I think you're getting some interesting ideas that are coming out of Jonathan and his colleagues who really study the Middle East day after day and night after night. And he says that if the United States proposed to state to Israel that Jerusalem would be the undivided capital forever and ever, and get all the other countries to agree to that, and for that Israel would accept the Palestinian state in 1999, which looks like it may be an obvious position that takes place. It's up to Bill Clinton. So I want your insight into the political yes or no about Bill Clinton.
Well, you know it has to be Bill because no Arab or Israeli leader is going to listen to Dennis Ross.
We agree.
So the question is Bill up to it? On the basis of the immediate past, no. But on the basis of maybe, if he has
Why do you say no on that? Why?
because he hasn't shown a sustained interest in a foreign policy issue that didn't have an immediate benefit in the polls or in
So you're
in
asking
money.
him to be a statesman.
So can he be a statesman and take a hit in terms of the polls and money?
Right.
And he's going to take a hit. There's no Palestinian donor constituency that the DNC can tap.
Right.
So they could lose money, and the Republicans will be all over him. So he and the Democrats will take a hit on this. But if he wants to go down as an international president, which I think he does want to go down in the history books.
The words are very tough. I don't think he wants to go down. He wants to leave.
He wants to go up.
Right.
He wants to ascend. He wants to be a well-regarded president.
Absolutely.
And he can't do it on Social Security alone.
Will he be impeached before he can make
He's
that
not going to
statement?
be impeached. Are we going to talk about Iraq and Iran before you kick me off?
Whatever you. I never kick you off. If you exit in a nice way, but I want to get
Exit in a nice way. Okay.
We want to get your insight into Iran and Iraq.
Okay. Let's do Iraq first, the nasty one. We don't have a really great policy on Saddam, but let me propose that we come up with a policy because in 6 months, UNSCOM's going to give him a clean bill of health. He's figured out a way to hide his weapons of mass destruction. These little biological vials. They don't need huge, laboratories. He's going to hide his weapons.
He has not transformed since Kofi Annan visited. We know that.
Well, he is playing a smart game. He's going to appear like he's complying. UNSCOM's going to issue a report saying he's in compliance, and our allies and our not-so allies are going to say, hey, lift the sanctions. What are we going to do? So
but do you believe that Butler would accept that?
Butler might. He'll argue, hey, where's this anthrax and this and that? You have to account for it. But assuming that Butler and the others can be persuaded that everything's accounted for, the U.S. has to be prepared for that day. So why not now, when we have some leverage, renegotiate the terms under which we would lift sanctions? Create an escrow fund so that every drop of oil he sells, there's a little bit goes to maintaining UNSCOM. We've got to maintain UNSCOM after.
Should the escrow account go to CitiBank?
CitiBank would be great.
She doesn't want
Citigroup.
Citigroup, okay.
We need to make sure that we have some kind of monitoring after the sanctions are lifted. We also have to watch out on dual transfer technology, because if you can sell things that are made for fertilizers, he can also use them to make biological weapons. Bottom line, though, is that we're going to have to live with Saddam, and therefore, Leon, we should drop the notion of an overt campaign to get rid of him. We do not have the means to do it. No Kurd, no Shiite's going to get rid of him. It's going to be some colonel in the army, and we're going to wake up the next day and find out that colonel had a lucky day. But we cannot engineer it. So what I'm saying is, overt efforts to topple Saddam are contradictory to a policy of containing Saddam in what I call a bigger box. Give him a bigger box, but keep him inside.
I got your point. What are the political negatives on that?
Political negatives are you got to negotiate with the Russians and the French and the Arabs to get them to agree, and the UN to agree to the bigger box and the terms. And the big negative is Saddam stays in power. Now, on a brighter note, Iran seems to be moving in the right direction.
Making a lot of speeches towards that.
Yeah, their foreign minister said the other day, and this is to your Israeli audience, that if Israel withdraws from Lebanon, Hezbollah no longer has any military right to make war. The war is over, even though Syria wants them to keep fighting.
It's not a question. They won't fund them. That's really what it means, and that's important. That's very important.
I heard that the Israelis and the Iranians at some conference in Malta or somewhere spent the whole day in secret meetings.
It would not surprise me, and they weren't selling ties either, believe me.
In fact, the Israelis may be out in front of the Americans in terms of reaching normalization with Iran first. And I think the U.S. has to sit down with the Israelis and say, hey, don't go too far ahead of us. We still have this ILSA Act, with the D'Amato bill.
Something that you don't know and very few people know, and maybe Steve Forbes knows because he was head of the Voice of America. But Israel beams a radio contact
yes, I do.
every day to Tehran, and I know the man who does it.
Right.
And
There was a write-up on him.
I don't know, but he's a very close friend. I don't even want to mention his name, but they beam in there, and it seems to have had some kind of an effect. There is a delegation of rabbis from Israel that are going to Iran this weekend to celebrate Passover.
We send wrestlers, and Israel sends rabbis.
Really? Well, that makes normal. That's pretty sensible, right?
I thought Zionism was about Israel turning into a nation of wrestlers and not a nation of rabbis.
Well, the big question is whether Zionism still exists now.
Yes. And where are the wrestlers since Munich?
So, Israel's celebrating its 50th anniversary in about 2-3 weeks.
Right. Can you get a hotel on the 29th? I can't.
You can't?
I'm going on the 1st, after the celebration.
We can arrange anything. A guest on this show gets so many privileges.
Thank you.
Aside from this cup, you'll get a reservation at any hotel you want in Israel. And if we can't get you into Israel, we'll get you into Gaza.
Thank you.
And you can travel the distance.
Thank you.
And Yasser Arafat's built a beautiful hotel down there. A new Hyatt is being built there, yeah.
I thought that was the Marriott.
They have running water now. Everything is doing pretty well over there.
I prefer Ramallah.
Which brings me to another point. I'm not kibitzing now.
Yeah.
How economically is the Palestinian state going to support itself? That's really important.
Their diaspora better start coughing up some money. I mean, Israel got a lot of support from people from Detroit and Cleveland.
You know who the biggest fundraiser for
Where
the Palestinians? Shimon Peres.
Yes.
Did you know
That's
that?
right. I do. He and the World Bank created this venture capital fund that's terrific. Started with $50 million. Uri Severe is running the Paris Institute, is doing a wonderful job. We at the council are going to do a study of what needs to be done to get that economy going. And maybe by June, you'll have me back and I can report.
You got a deal. Jonathan,
Thank you, Leon.
have a great Passover. Tell your mother.
By the time this show airs, we'll be at the end of Passover.
No, it won't. It's Sunday. And
Okay.
Tell your mother she's highly intelligent for watching this show.
Thank you.
We'll be right back to discuss Sandy Weil and John Rhee with a new reporter from Forbes Magazine that we will introduce to you. Stay with us, and we'll tell you. We won't tell you, but we'll see if it's a good investment. We're back. I'm Leon Charney. We're speaking with Caroline Geer, who is a senior editor at Forbes Magazine, and we're pleased to have her. It's the first time she's on the show. And guess what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about economics, Sandy Weil, John Rhee, CitiBank, Travelers, Solomon Smith Barney. I mean, it goes on, mergers, acquisitions. It's very important. I mean, it's not only for the high rollers, because this really affects everyone. For years, I served, Caroline, as a public member of the New York State Department of Banking, and it was really my job to make sure the consumers were not hurt. And so we know a little bit about this stuff. And the question is, what happens to the consumer in all this mess? So first of all, is it good or is it bad, this merger? What do you think?
I think it's obviously too soon to tell, but if I were to guess, I'd say it'd be neutral. From the consumer's perspective, I'm not so sure this is a merger that was driven by a particular need in the market. I'm not so sure the consumer cares very much if he gets his mutual funds, insurance, and banking all under the same roof. I think that the consumer cares most about value. And so we'll see if the Citigroup can provide value.
About 1984, I was a member of a thing called the DeWin Commission, which was appointed by Mario Cuomo to contemplate how to mix or to change financial services, insurance, and banking. And it was a blue ribbon commission. On that commission was Arthur Levitt, who's now head of the SEC, John Phelan, who's chairman of the New York Stock Exchange, Bill Schreier, who was chairman of Merrill Lynch, Hank Greenberg, who's chairman of AIG, John Terrell, who is president of Manufacturers Hanover, John Creedon, who is insurance, Metropolitan Life, Louis Lefkowitz, who is an attorney general. We had a really blue ribbon. We took testimony and hearings for about 7 months, this blue ribbon panel. And what we came to at the end of the day is no one knew what to do. You had the Glass-Steagall Act, which prevents banks from underwriting, and you had everybody was screaming. If you took one industry, everybody'd say level playing field. Everybody wanted to have a level playing field. That was the gizmo. That was the big term. But no one could really figure out how to do it in a sense that protects the consumer, which is really what we were interested in. So I agree with you. I think Freud had a lot to do with that merger. I think when you're playing like John Reed and you're playing like Sandy Weill and you're looking for new horizons and you're going to make world history, and it was a historic move.
Absolutely.
It's ego. And someone senior at Solomon came to see me today, Solomon Smith Barney, and said, here's what happened really. CitiBank wanted to go into the investment banking business. They wanted to do underwriting. So they grabbed these brilliant guys from Solomon Smith Barney, and they have them under their wing. On the other hand, CitiBank has the distribution. So they're in 100 countries. It's really the national bank of the United States. And so they got distribution. But you're right. What does it do for anybody?
I'm not sure. It's easy to see how Travelers and Sandy Weill benefit from this. I mean, he clearly wanted to be a global brand. He wanted to be a global financial services company. He was not that. Travelers had almost no international reach. Now, overnight, he's everywhere. CitiBank is huge in Europe, huge in Japan. Now he's got the global reach.
All right, but you do stories every day about big men in business, about CEOs and COOs and CFOs. These guys are egotistical, and I'll talk about Weill and Reed. I'm talking generically about CEOs, and they have to be. They're leaders. Is it easy for co-chairmen to get it together? I remember when Solomon Brothers took over Phillips Brothers. It was a couple of years ago, and it became Fibro Solomon. And I knew a fellow named Dave Tamler, and I knew a lot of the group there. And I said, you know, this guy Goodfriend, who was chairman of Solomon at that time, will eat you guys up alive. And he says, now we worked out a plan, we're going to work together. It took about 2 years, and they were eaten alive. So Reed and Weill, are they going to be able to make it?
You know, it's dubious that pairing. I mean, you can see it already. They're very different, though they both have healthy egos. They're very different personalities. I mean, Reed is...
It's a technocrat.
He's an engineer. He's an MIT guy. He's a little bit reclusive. He
Right.
never gives interviews. I'm sure that the press was just delighted that he came out of his office for the press conference
No
the
one
other
has
day.
seen him. A fellow was in my office from a bank yesterday. He said, I didn't realize John Reed was this old, because he hadn't seen him in about 20 years.
Right.
So, Carolyn, we know that John Reed is a technocrat. What about Sandy Weill? What do you know about Sandy?
Sandy Weill, probably equally large ego, but Weill is likes the limelight a bit more.
Jewish boy from Brooklyn.
He's a boy made good, yeah, and he's a consummate deal guy.
Well, he retired, didn't he, when he had American Express? He sold out, and he went out about 10 years ago.
Right, but then he bought this thing, which everyone was shaking their head, what is he doing, buying this thing called commercial credit, and from that he bought Primerica Financial Services, and that was his foundation to come back. And look what he's built since. I mean, he's a builder. He buys, generally adopts the name of the company that he buys, most recently Travelers. I mean, Travelers was a good old line name. And when he bought that company, he shed Primerica Financial Services name pretty quickly and adopted the Travelers name with the Travelers umbrella.
Do you know what the P&E is on CitiBank today? Price earnings?
I didn't check it before I came to the studio.
In general, how high? Usually banks don't trade that high, but I understand it is very high.
Exactly.
Right now.
Oh, I mean,
P is the amount of price earnings. In other words, if a stock were making $1 a year, a 10% or a PE of 10 would mean the stock was valued at $10 a P. And that's pretty fair, because if you invested your money and got 10%, it's pretty good. But if your PE goes to 20, that means you're making 5%. And if it goes to 30, you're making about 2.5%. And that's, these markets are going crazy now. You know what somebody asked me yesterday, and I'm going to ask you this. he says, what happens if the mutual funds have more money than there are stocks available? Because there's so much money pouring into the mutual funds.
Exactly, with 401ks and everything.
Right.
Well, I mean, that is a theory for why the stock market keeps going up and up and up, that it's just being flooded with money.
All right, so you're an editor in a very important magazine, Forbes. Philosophically, what do you what happens? What's going on in this world?
With this merger, I mean, it is
not only the merger, but the market. I mean, after the merger was announced, CitiBank went up $40, and then it plummeted a little bit, I think $15.
Came back.
What's happening? I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, you start to wonder if there's anything rational about this market at all. I mean, when this deal was announced, I mean, we'll just take it as an example. I mean, both stocks shot up tremendously.
All bank stocks went up too.
There was a ripple effect. I mean, then everybody started thinking, who's next? Who's next? And it's sort of you've got to find a merger partner, or you'll be left behind. It's as if, well, why? Well, because he's doing it, and there is a bit of keeping up with the Joneses here, I think.
Do you think there'll be more mergers?
Yes, I think there will be.
You think Chase has to do something?
I think he's probably very, very concerned right now. And probably looking around and talking to people right now.
So should people buy bank stocks today?
Well, selectively, sure.
Select me a few.
Chase is probably a good bet. Merrill Lynch, people are wondering what they're going to do. They've got to do something too.
Why do they have to do something? I mean, they're doing very well.
They are, but again, keeping up with the Joneses. But
you're not talking about the new porches on houses with the Joneses. You're talking about mega mergers, and don't tell me there won't be some unemployment and some people who are, chopped off.
There will be. Well, that's one of the interesting things about the Travelers Citicorp merger is that in the past, Sandy Weil has been known for buying and then slashing.
Right.
I mean, it's been an exercise in cutting expenses. This one is very different. And he even said so. I mean, this merger is with an eye toward increasing revenues and cross-selling. Sure, there'll be cuts, but that's not where he's going to make this work. So it's a very different task for him that he's given himself.
So, okay, you're neutral on the whole thing, and you're not sure whether it's good or bad. Haven't they pushed themselves into a regulatory nightmare, though?
Exactly. What was stunning about this deal was that what they are proposing isn't even legal in this country. And by that I mean...
Why is that?
We've got...
because banks cannot underwrite insurance?
Exactly. We've got a Depression-era law still on the books, Glass-Steagall, which separates investment banking from commercial banking.
Right.
We have tried for 2 decades, every other year or so, to break that, and it's gone nowhere. So we've got that on the books. We've also got a banking law which prohibits banks from underwriting insurance policies.
Right.
Well, here, with a combination of Travelers and Citicorp, you've got all three under one quote-unquote umbrella, one big red umbrella, and they are obviously betting that those laws will change.
All right, we got to cut for a break, and we'll come right back and ask Caroline how important Senator Amato will be in this change, because basically it's a little bit of chutzpah for Reid and Weil to get together and say, well, it's illegal what we're doing, or the regulations prohibit us from doing it, but we'll push it through anyway. That's called major chutzpah. We'll be back. We're back with me with Caroline Geer, first time on the show, senior editor at Forbes Magazine and highly intelligent, giving us a rundown on the Weil-Reid combination, which is CitiBank and Travelers, called the Citigroup from now on, maybe. And Senator Alphonse D'Amato, our illustrious senator from New York, is chairman of the Banking Committee. And Ray Healy, who's with us from Forbes Magazine, brought out a very good point during our break, that maybe the Congress does not want to be pushed that quickly. What's your thought on that?
I think it is it's going to be very interesting to watch. I mean, on the one hand, they don't want, Congress, I'm sure, doesn't want to be perceived as you say, being pushed around, letting business write the laws. On the other hand, these two particular businesses have been very good at lobbying over the years and have contributed great amounts to the coffers of people like Alphonse D'Amato. So there will be a tension there, and there is the possibility that it will backfire, but it's hard to believe that would happen.
Really?
Yeah.
You think it'll go through?
Well,
Do you think the Republicans would like to see this, or the Democrats? How's it
I
break?
think the Republicans certainly will.
Really?
Would like to see it, sure, and they've been big backers of, for example, repealing Glass-Steagall.
Glass-Steagall,
Yeah.
abolishing it?
Yeah.
So you think Newt Gingrich will be for this?
I would have to guess he would be, yeah.
Do you think they touch base with Gingrich and Republican leadership? I understand they phoned President Clinton on Sunday.
Exactly. They did. And
what did Clinton say?
And
do you know?
Greenspan, I don't know. I don't know that they actually even spoke to him personally, but I know that they did put in a call to the White House. They touched base with the Fed and with Rubin, I believe. But
what's your opinion of Rubin? Do you think he's doing a good job?
I think he's doing, I mean, look, anybody can look good in this market, you know.
But did he create this market?
Well, I'm not so sure. I think
I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't think he had much to do with creating this market. I think you could argue that Greenspan had a lot to do with creating this market.
Who brought the interest rates down?
Well, I mean, Greenspan has been instrumental in that, for sure.
And everybody's talking about 9,000. The Dow Jones hit 9,000 and it reverted. It went back and it's
Right.
bounced back. Do you see, and this is a prophecy, do you see the Dow at 10,000?
Yes, you know, I wouldn't have said that last year,
Really?
but I really would not be surprised if that happens this year.
And do you think interest rates will remain low?
Yes. Yeah,
For how
I
long?
do.
We play these tapes back. by the way.
Uh-oh.
Your predecessor, Rita Koselko, who was here, and she's out in California, I understand. We used to do prophecies with her.
Really?
Yeah, she was always wrong, by the way.
Well, she's a good Forbes reporter, you
She's
know.
a wonderful
not
girl.
afraid to
and
go out
she-
on a limb.
and she was very bright, and it's hard to be a prophet. But
Absolutely.
how long do you think rates will stay?
Oh, at least another year.
And do you think the long bond will get to 5.5%?
Yes. Sure.
Protection.
Yeah, we'll make a prediction.
And when do you think that would happen?
Oh, you're really pushing me here.
Yeah, well, that's our opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometime in the next year.
So you think, so people, this is important for consumers. Should they refinance their homes now, or should they wait a little bit? If 5.5% is another 35 basis points, should they wait for that to happen? Or you wouldn't take the chance? Do it now.
You know, it depends on your individual circumstances, obviously, but, you know, if there are other mitigating factors, you might want to do it now. I don't know that I would wait. I mean, don't be greedy, right?
All right, Rita, where would you, Rita, I'm sorry. Well, Caroline, where would you invest now?
You know, I would look overseas. The foreign markets have paled in comparison to U.S. markets recently. But in this year's first quarter, they've really shown their stuff. And so I think that, you know, if you don't want to invest in an overheated U.S. market, now's the time to start looking abroad. Maybe
a
they'll
mutual
start.
fund, you mean?
Oh yes, I would invest in a mutual fund, particularly with foreign stocks. It's much easier.
What do you think about Japan now?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of smart people. CitiBank is going gangbusters in Japan. I mean, there's a lot
So
of
is
bottom fishing
GE
going
Capital's
on.
going in. They're over there right now.
Absolutely. I mean, Japan has some intractable problems.
But you know what I heard in Japan is a real problem with the criminal element there. Let's take mortgages. I understand if you default on your mortgage and you try to foreclose as a bank there, there's a criminal element that comes around and puts a stop to it. And I heard this from a major lender of a major corporation.
Yeah.
You're not talking about a small little group of characters. This is a major problem in Japan.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything about that?
I don't know any details about that, no, but I wouldn't be surprised. But you've got, the Japanese are pulling their money out of Japanese banks and putting it in CitiBank now. I mean, they're just...
Why? Why are they doing that? They believe more of CitiBank?
Yes, they feel it's a
So Reed is
safer
right in
place.
his calculation. Reed has always thought that way.
Yeah, and CitiBank has just a tremendous global brand. It's one of the best and only true global brands in the world.
That's true.
Yeah.
So if I were a typical person watching my show and I was a middle-income person, according to what you say, I might trade out of my fund that's doing very well now because there's a limit to how far it can go, and maybe take it and invest in foreign, in funds that invest in foreign economies.
Yes, absolutely. I really would. I mean, Europe is coming back
How
strong
about Asia,
now.
Southeast Asia,
Boy.
Korea?
It's, you don't want to put all of your money in markets like that, but, if you have a small portion that you're able to gamble with and lose, yes, now's a good time to gamble a little bit.
Okay, you've heard it from Caroline, and she's our new resident expert from Forbes Magazine, and we'll be back after break to continue. It's very important. Economics really runs the world. We can talk about Israel, but it's all, Israel is governed by economics. It's all economics at the end of the day, and even Bill Clinton will tell you that. That's why it's so popular today. We'll be right back. We're back. We're speaking with Caroline Geer, senior editor of Forbes Magazine, and we're happy to have her on the show. She's giving you some great ideas if you want to take a little money and be a little bit more risky, but you have a better shot. Maybe go to foreign mutual funds that invest in foreign economies. Interest rates will stay low. The bond will hit 5.5% within the year, and those are predictions. And we play the tape back. You can't do any worse than most. What do you call it? Most economists. Yeah, they go on Moneyline and CNBC and all that, and they really don't know. Who would you consider, by the way, some of the top economists in the country?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Economists. Well, not to toot our own horn, but Forbes has some very respectable columnists.
Really? Name a few.
Steve Hanke, Mike Gianturco. Help me out, Ray Healy. And Ken Fisher. Thank you.
So you think people should be buying Forbes magazine
Always,
and find
of
out
course.
and find out what's going on in the world?
Right.
Does it bother you that these CEOs are getting so compensated? I mean, you read about this compensation; it's unreal. I mean, people are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. How does that? What happens? I mean,
it's tricky because here we all wanted them to have a stake in the company. So then we got all this stock-based compensation. Well, now the market is going gangbusters, and of course their stake is rising along with everyone else's. So, they've got these bloated-looking compensation packages. What bothers me is now we're seeing a trend toward repricing these options for some of these technology stocks in particular that are starting to take hits this year. All of a sudden you're seeing the companies reprice their options downward.
what do you mean? Explain it. To the
Meaning
audience.
that if you had an option to buy a stock at $50,
Right.
and now the stock has dropped to $20.
So you recast it to $10.
Exactly.
So you're always helping out the CEO.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. Well, it's not just the CEO. I mean, sometimes these rank and file have stock as well, but it's certainly not incentive to do it that way.
Is there too much disparity now between these CEOs who make hundreds of millions of dollars and people are getting laid off in the same company? Is that a social, economic problem that's developing in this country?
You know, it's hard to say that when we've got such low unemployment rates across the board.
Good point.
You know, I know it looks terrible, but you have to remember that these CEOs, you know, a lot of this compensation, it's just paper profits right now.
Right.
And so I don't think you can make that blanket statement.
What about, there was a column now that I saw, I think, in the New York Times, where economists are becoming like ball players. They're becoming stars, and universities are bidding for them, and they have no-cut contracts and salary caps. I mean, it's like a ball player. Everybody seems to be developing into media stars. Is this gonna change the way we look at the economy in this country?
You know, to the extent that it educates people, great. But what worries me is when there are too many magazines, newsletters, TV shows. There's so much space and airtime to fill that you know, people are just being inundated. The average investor is hearing night and day about the S&P 500 going up and up and up, and I think their expectations are a bit skewed now.
So there's a proliferation, and it's hard to make a real judgment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caroline, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, for giving us your wisdom. I'm going out to short the long bond because it's going down because of you.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to my mutual fund to buy some foreign securities in Japan and Korea. Is okay, and we don't know anything. By the way, this is only for fun. It's intelligence, but we don't want anybody to listen to this as real advice. We think this is what will happen. So you call your investment advisor, whoever you think is smart. We'll see you next week after you buy the stuff.